Tyler, take it away, man.
Awesome. So, what is there? 5? So there's 5 people that are users so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, about 5. Cool. So we should have another 15 or so users today. All right. Cool. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have with REISift as a platform is that it's a list stacker. It is something it definitely does, and it does it very well. We spent a lot of money for over the last 2 years in making it the best platform for being able to intake data at a really efficient way and then move it places. So what I want you to think about REISift as a platform is that its purpose and its intent is to take all the prospects that you have and be able to convert it to leads in a repeatable, efficient way with as much clarity as possible, as cheap as possible, okay, at scale, and then to take those leads and convert them into revenue over time. But the most important thing is, who here had, someone here mentioned like a $100,000 deal that they closed, or the flip. Okay, so you got one, right? Something that's really important to me is being able to is just 2 things. Number 1, if you lose a deal, which I'm sure all of us have seen deals that we've lost that we know we're marketing to. If we lose a deal, what were we doing to market to that person so that we can go back and see that historically? Most people can't do that. Like if something comes across and it's like, oh, shoot, I was marketing to that deal. I know I just don't know how many times, when, where, and how much money I spent. That's something they can't answer. However, that's something we should be able to answer, right? Because that's how we improve our business, how we fill gaps and holes. We call them leaky faucets at REISift. And the same thing goes with our successful deals, right? Even a successful deal has things that we can learn from, things that we can improve upon and do better. If we're getting a lead and it took us 2 months to get the lead, how can we make it a month? Right? How can we shortcut that success? And the only way to be able to do that is to be able to reverse engineer it. So that's the other big component of REISift that we're building, is the ability to not only target people more efficiently, better and faster, but also then to be able to reverse engineer our successes and repeat this process to be able to become more efficient, right? So for me, when I first started, I was sending direct mail as well, and I ended up stopping that pretty quickly because I became broke, right? I wasn't ready for it, and so I switched over to cold calling. But then I realized that cold calling also costs money, right? They say it's cheap, but it's not necessarily true, right? Because you got to pay for the caller, you got to pay for the platform, you got to, spend the time. It doesn't just come in, and say, oh, I'm like really motivated leads. There's a lot of tire kickers. And then I started SMSing because everyone said that was cheap, right? And then you realize that you have to spend per send, and you get a bunch of wrong numbers, and then you go to market to them again, and if you're not removing those wrong numbers, you're marketing to them again, and there's a bunch of waste happening, right? So doing this at scale is really, really difficult. And if you don't think about the process that I'm about to kind of show you guys in some of these systems, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up starting the market, and then in 3 months from now, you're going to either have extreme success or you're going to have lack of success, and you're going to think it's the marketing, and that's not the case. Because there's people in your market doing it that it works, right? And it's either because they're doing it at volume, they don't care about the money, right? Or they're getting lucky. In either case, a lot of times people end up coming back and having to reevaluate what the hell was going on, and that's when they become long-term clients for us, right? A lot of times they have to have that aha moment where they've wasted a bunch of money, but then we also have the people who come in, they're like brand new, and they're just needing like clarity on what the hell is marketing, how do we get a hold of people? Someone mentioned or asked the question, like if you wanted to market on Monday to multifamily leads, like I'll show you how to do that, like today. Like really easily, quick and simple. We can do it within like 4 hours and you can start getting leads, right? The quicker that we can intake data, something Ryan's really good at teaching, which I actually really suck at, even though I have a data platform, is the ability to like get the niche data and build a process around it and get that every single week so you can mail it every single week. Like that process is key. First to market is one of the most important things you can ever do in your business, no matter what industry it's in. The sooner that I can tell you that I can solve your problem in real estate before this guy does, one of my competitors, the better advantage I have to be able to be the credible factor for you, right? The same thing comes with probate families and tax delinquent individuals, right? The sooner you can be that first person, the better, but most people don't have that process. See, when you're marketing, you're playing a data catch-up game, right? Because all of us get into the industry and we buy like 5,000 or 10,000 records, right? And after we buy those, we're like trying to market to all of those individuals, and then we go and we buy more data and it continues to be a thing, right? In all reality, what it really should be is it should be cool. I have like 4,000 probates. I'm gonna market to all 4,000. I'm gonna play catch up because these could have been probates from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 months ago, who knows? I'm playing catch up. I need to figure out every one of those 4,000 what their status is. And now on a weekly basis, I wanna be first to market. So in all reality, the reason why most people's businesses become stagnant is because they played the catch-up game and they didn't know what already happened after 2 or 3 years of marketing to those 4,000. So if they've degraded the list and they're not accurately, properly bringing in that new 100 records a month, and so their business goes down, I think it's a problem. But in all reality, they caught up to the data and now they're only marketing to 100 new people every single month. Right? So if you know that's a problem, then you can expand into new markets predictably and accurately and properly, rather than just guessing and spending money. Okay, so those are things that are really high level that can seem super complicated, but that's like the core of what a business is. It's the things that make you a 30-year company rather than a 3-year story, right? So who here would like me to hop in their account? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of go in someone's. You don't mind? All right. Yeah, that's fine, because I'm gonna do some stuff. I think it's easier to hop into his account, for example, and ask him what is he doing in his business. We'll just help him out. And no matter what strategy you're using, however, in your marketing, either way, it'll help, right? But I think that'll give us the most bang for our buck. So all I need is your email then. Okay. So I'm now impersonating Dylan Thomas. You can see over the top, so I'm in his account now. This is how I steal all your data. I'm just kidding. So he's got 405,000 records in here, right? So I think it's important, that I kind of go through the process of doing an account review for him. So you guys can see how I look at it when I'm coaching and educating and teaching people how to properly market, across, big data. Because when I see 405,000, automatically I'm either he's making a crap ton of money or he's not making anything. It's one or the other. It's typically, and I know that he is making money. However, it's typically not perfectly in the middle where they have all their operations perfect and it's just they have all these records just because they can accurately market to all of them. Right? Most of us have way more records than what we can market to. In my account, you might have seen I had 330,000 records or so. I only have 70,000 of those skip traced, right? Because those are the ones that I should spend my money on. I shouldn't spend my money on the other ones, right? But in a month from now, in a week from now, when I add new data in, it might end up popping up as a priority to spend money on it, right? So we always only want to spend money on prospects once it's time to spend money on it. A good example that I used earlier this morning, that's why, again, this morning I was late. I had another mastermind. I was talking on David Perry's. I think he's in CCF, right? And in that call, someone had asked a question, and my response was essentially, imagine if Walmart was out in front and they were just picking random vehicles, kind of like a check for the cops check, your vehicles or whatever. If they're okay, you go into Walmart, you go into Walmart, you go into Walmart, their chance of success that they're gonna get sales is really slim. That's why they have a sign out, and that's why they specifically choose roads and do the research to say, this is where we're gonna build a Walmart. People see our sign, they come in when they wanna buy something. What you're doing is you're going out there and saying, you come in and answer the phone, you come in and answer the phone, you come in and answer the phone. You're trying to play this game of chance. Right? So when people have this many records, this is a game of chance typically, right? It's okay to have this many, but when you're buying it without having some sort of management and process and visualization and insight on it, it's chance. You're hoping that you're gonna market these 405,000, you're gonna spend, typically what you do is you buy a high equity list, and then you're okay, I can afford roughly $2,500 a month, so record 1 to 3,500, those are the ones I'm gonna do. And it might have 10,000 records in there, and the 7,506th record is the one that would sell you the property because it's a vacant property, they're out-of-state homeowner, and they're tax delinquent. But you don't know that because you're basing it off of what your experience is, what you know, and that's how much money can I spend to try and make money, right? And so that's not really the right way to approach business. So when I see this, the very first thing I dictate to is I divert over to here first. What's a vacancy ratio in his market, which for him is 1%, so he has 3,600, almost 3,700 vacant records, right? So out of the 405,000 records, automatically I know that if he was coming in and he needed to refine and make more money, it would be to really focus on these 3,700, not the 405,000, because if he can do every single marketing strategy, cold call, direct mail, and be consistent over the course of the year, he's gonna have a crap ton of deals that can close in that 3,700, right? The problem is that people grab those 3,700 and they'll like cold call through it one time, and then they're like, oh, well, they don't want to sell their house. They must, move on to new data. And that's not necessarily true. So that's really important. The other really important thing that I like to see here is that not all of it skip trace. In fact, he has none that skip trace, so that's something that we do want to end up seeing. He just hasn't done it yet. And that's okay, because do what's working, right? But he also has 79 newly vacant. Right? We had someone who just posted in our mastermind community group that he just got a deal on the 2nd because of his newly vacant. He had 12 newly vacant properties and he got a deal out of it. Right? And his thing was like $23,000 assignment fee. So out of those, like, what are we doing every single month? If we have 405,000, we paid for all that data, right? It wasn't free, right? But 79 are newly vacant properties. Last month, there was 30 some because he has 40 more this month, right? So what are we doing to do that? Are we sending direct mail to those? Are we taking them as a priority? Are we, cold calling them? Like, what are we doing to be the first person to market that brand new vacant property, right? I don't like to see like everything skip trace, because that means that you're just throwing money out the window unless you have like a really solid process in place to like properly cold call. Okay, so in his scenario, if we go into his account, we're gonna take a look, and automatically, I'm gonna like dog on you a little bit, I apologize. Automatically, like, this is like things that I hate to see. Like, it tears me up inside when I go to like the records page and I see 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That's like 5 lists that it's on, and the statuses are blank. And this is a vacant owner occupied, and this one's vacant. So at minimum, these two I would love to see have like not interested, a lead, or like I don't know, something. But when it's blank, it means that we didn't do anything to reach out to this. And this is 10 records out of 405,000. This is the top 10 records in my account, right? Like, we need to be focused on this. This is why we can bring companies that are doing like 3, 4, 5, some of the companies doing $7 million a year in real estate, and they upload all their data in here. We get everything centralized, and I'm like, I promise them, I say, listen, if you come in and you start using REISift, I can reduce your budget easily by $10,000 a month from what you're spending right now. And I can increase your sales by minimum $100,000 in the first 30 days. And I upload all their data, and like, this is what it looks like. They haven't even touched the top percentage of their data.
If you go into the records, you go to tags, I tag it because I mail it. So I don't do the stats. That's the thing with the REISift and REISift that's not correlating over.
Right.
So all those happen blasted with mail, but it's in tags, not in the statuses.
But let's take that objection and let's run with it here.
That's probably a pretty bad objection, though.
Yeah. Let's take that and let's take a peek, because it doesn't mean that you didn't market to them. It just means you didn't market to them as much as you could have, which you've already admitted in your scenario is a thing that you're not doing fully. But we have mailed it, right? We can see that we've mailed it in here, and that's fantastic. We can see that it's showing vacant here. REISift isn't seeing that it's vacant, but in this scenario, let's look at the owner and see. He only owns one property in our account, so that's good. But he's tax delinquent, failed MLS, so we know he wanted to sell this property. It's tax delinquent, it's out-of-state owner, and high equity. Technically, that's the same exact thing, by the way, y'all. So you have what we call false positives. We'll look at his list page here in a second. But this is showing as a 5 stack, but really it's actually a 3 stack, not a 5 stack. So sometimes we can over-market to something based off of things that we think are, industry terms basically fuck us over, right? Absentee, high equity, that's the same information, because when you pull an absentee list, it is typically pulled as a high equity list. And now we're adding it as a separate list in here. They're stacking together. And it's like, well, you could just filter by absentee. It doesn't make sense as a whole separate list to manage your data. But in this scenario, there is no tag that says, return mail. There's no tag that says lead. And we've been marketing to it since July, right? So we're going on 4 months. And this property could have actually sold already for all we know, right? And so what we do when we do our level 10 meetings is we do this. We look at, okay, what's our top data, and did something happen to it or didn't it? If it hasn't sold yet, right, then this is really important that we get our team on there. So the listing removed, they were trying to sell for $37,500, and it failed, right? So we know we can come in on this failed listing perspective and say, hey, it failed, I'll give you X amount of dollars now cash, and that's a huge ability for us to negotiate. And all we have to do is either you can skip trace it in here, right, or you can manually go to True People Search and find some phone numbers, add the phone numbers, and if you have the integration, you could click to call it right in here or whatever. But the most important thing, that I want you guys to take from this is that there's money sitting in your data that you just don't know exists because you're not making it a priority to flow that data through and have the visualization that you need. And this guy might want to sell right now. We know it hasn't sold yet, so that's good. But what ends up happening is we see this now and we never act on it. A lot of times it's because we either don't put it as a priority or we just should have a team member who's associated with it. So like for me, in my account, I would just assign this to April, and I would create a task in here for her to call, which I would use a task preset. He doesn't have any task presets, another big thing that he should implement. But I would create a task for her to call this person. That way tomorrow, my team member, and as long as my team members are good team members, see, a lot of people end up saying, well, I'm gonna use this technology over here because it's gonna do like automated this or automated that. Right? Well, what the fuck are you paying your team members for then? For them to be half of an employee? That doesn't make any sense, right? So people sacrifice not having good team members because they don't want to be a proper leader and they just hire something to take it over for them. And that's not the right way to approach business because you're basically signing a half-life. If anyone's like a science nerd here, your business has a half-life, that you're accepting or you do as a CEO. Right? So in this scenario, what I would be doing is I would be taking these, and this is what you should do, Dylan, is you should take these, top records, and you should assign them to a team member. And you should have a team member in here. And like if you were to select these top 10, you could skip trace them here in REISift or export and skip trace. I don't really care which one, as long as you do the process, and then assign them to a team member. And then when they come in here, they're going to toggle what's assigned to them. And all they're going to do is there's going to be phone numbers in here, and I'll show you guys in my account when I do the example for how you can start marketing to commercial properties in like 3 hours. You can click the call and then just next record, right? Move to the next record, call through the next numbers. Anybody who you're not reaching, you create another task. You create a task to call them the next day, and you do that. And if you do that 50 records a day, right? If you're gonna start kicking out really big opportunities, right? And so one of the big things is that, and I get this all the time, it's like, well, Tyler, click the call stuff. It never, it's not, I'm just not getting leads from it. I'm not getting leads, so I'm switching to bulk dialing. You just sound like the biggest idiot ever. You're saying that you're not gonna click to call, which is calling a phone number, so you're gonna switch to a bulk dialer, which is also calling the phone number. It's the same thing. There's literally no difference. You're calling a phone number. That's what you're doing. But the difference is that when you do a click to call and you're focused on this top data, which you don't have to do right away, you could start doing bulk dialing, but you always want to come back and capitalize on the people. Your bulk dialer is never going to find everybody. So some of that data needs to push over. Your direct mails after 3 months is you're going to have people that aren't responding, that are tax delinquent, like in this scenario, that it's either goes to tax auction or you try to call it. It's one or the other. So are you going to bid at tax auction? Are you not going to bid at tax auction? Or are you going to do the job that's needed to get a hold of them before it goes to tax auction? There's 3 options. And so, but when you're doing it from the click to call perspective, we call it a sensei flow, but when you click on the number, you're gonna dial it, right? And then if they don't answer, you're gonna send a text message. And if they don't respond to text message, or if let's say you get a voicemail, you're gonna leave a voicemail. And if you go through these phone numbers, let's say there's 5 here or 3 here, call through each one of them's gonna be dead, one of them's gonna be a wrong number, and the other one's not gonna answer. Call again tomorrow, maybe it doesn't answer. Call again the next day, maybe it doesn't answer. But you've sent a text message all 3 of those days. You left a voicemail if you got a voicemail. And then now we're sending a postcard as well. So we're doing 4 or 5 marketing strategies at the same time. In our bulk dialing, we're just cold calling, and it's our top data that we're doing it to. Right? So that's why it's so effective. And that's why it's super important to do this to the top 1% of your data set. We call it tier 1 data. Bulk dial that tier 2 data, send direct mail to that tier 2 data. In some situations, you're also going to send direct mail to the tier 1 stuff. Like me, any deceased data that comes to my business, period, gets direct mail right away. But then we also do the sensei flow against it. And then anything that's above that, we're going to be throwing in a bulk dialer.
Is that with the air call integration then?
Yeah, the air call integration, which I'll show you guys. He doesn't have any phone numbers, so you can't see it, but, Yeah, you can text message it as well. So that's really important, okay? And that's just me showing you from his account, from his perspective. How can he, who's doing about 4,000 direct mail pieces a month end up being able to, in that process of sending that direct mail, spend another, let's say $1,600 a month in a VA to be working through this data that he's direct mailing at the same time. So he's sending direct mail to the 3,700 and he's also direct mailing it. And we could like narrow that down to even like more niche stuff. Let's just say it's like vacant properties that are on 2 or more lists. So we'll do like list stacking 2 or more, apply that. So like at minimum, he needs to be mailing these ones, not the 30, let's say he's like, I don't have $3,700 worth, whatever that would cost to mail the 3,700. I don't have that. So let me narrow down more, and it's $2,249. Maybe I don't have enough for that, so I want to narrow down to even more valuable people. We'll say like, okay, what about the out-of-state homeowners? That's $264. So maybe we send direct mail to all 2,500, and we cold call and sensei flow to 264 that we know are out-of-state homeowners that really need, to get our message out there, right? Or maybe the people who we know aren't going to get our direct mail because they're owner-occupied, which is 457 of them. Like, if you're sending direct mail to those right now, you're blowing money, right? So you could be smart right now, and you could be saying, not owner-occupied. And if you're doing that, but then you're not cold calling them, then you're just saying, okay, well, I'm willing to accept that this money's sitting on the table, right? Because it is, because you're not going to get mail to them. So there's obviously a lot of different directions that you can go through when it comes to how you're going to market, what you're going to do, how efficient you can be, and you can get lost really quickly by trying to like do a bunch all at once. What's really important, which we talked about yesterday, is finding like that niche that you have, becoming super dominated in that niche, and then making sure that you're hitting and becoming that first to market against that niche. And if you want to have more lead gen coming in, right, then we can accept degraded marketing, meaning marketing that's not doing the best for us, like bulk dialing, for example, to this higher level, maybe just straight high equity data, just so that we can get some leads coming that we can convert. Meanwhile, we're focusing on sending all of the forms of marketing to these individuals.
Highest priority is getting hit from all angles.
Highest priority is going to hit from all angles, right? And that's how, some books call it the guerrilla marketing, for example, right? It's like your blast marketing in a lot of different ways. So, for example, in his account, I would take and I would be marketing to these, these vacant properties. Well, I reset the filter, but we would be marketing to those 500 people. We'd be calling it. We wouldn't be sending direct mails to the ones that are vacant mailing addresses, but the 257, records that were out-of-state homeowners, they would definitely be getting direct mail. We would be still cold calling through all those, and then we would also be doing bulk marketing to those 3,700 or so. And then what we would do to create more trickle inbound, if I didn't want to do even more cold calling, is I would be doing online ads, which again, Ryan's really good at, educating you guys on. And I would be exporting out what we call data buckets. So we have these filter presets for REISift: stacked, vacant, ouchies, and equity. Ouchies is just like a pain point. Equity might be, let's just say, his high equity list here. It doesn't have any statuses, it's only on the high equity list, and it's not vacant, and we apply that. In his scenario, he has about 200,000 of his records are high equity. If he wanted to market to all 200,000 of these right now, he would have to spend a buku amount of money, and even if he tried to right now, he wouldn't be successful in it. He might trickle out leads, but there'd be so much money being thrown out the window that it wouldn't make any sense. But what we could do is we could export this and make an audience on Facebook, and we can hit them all on Facebook, right? So we can hit our bulk, buckets, high equity, all of our vexations, also the people that we're, niching down on, like all of our vacants, and that can be like a wide approach that we're doing. And then we could then send direct mail, really targeted direct mail to those people that we know we want to be reaching out to, those stacked records, those vacant records. And because we're narrowing down, we don't have to say, oh, my budget can only afford like one mail campaign every 3 months. Because we're narrowing down to the people we know that we can spend money on, we can send mail every single month because we're not sending as much monthly, but we're sending consistently every single month, which is more important than hitting more people every 3 months, okay? Meanwhile, we're putting our website on our postcards, right? So when they go to our postcards, then they get retargeted through our Facebook ads, and they're already seeing our Facebook ads already. Now they're seeing the postcard. And if they respond to our Carrot website, now they gave us their phone number. That gets put in here, stacks against the record that we're sending direct mail to. Now the status gets updated as a lead, and we don't have to send direct mail to it no more, right? So we can save money every single month by making sure we're updating that inbound data, right? So there's a whole ecosystem that you can come up with. And again, it can be overwhelming if you're trying to implement all that all at once, but what's most important is that you start with one little piece of it and you're consistent with it, and then we continue to add on to the ecosystem. So let me real quick show, look at his list page real quick. So this is a list that I'm just deleting because it doesn't have any records on it. So it doesn't need to be in there. Bankruptcy, estates, failed MLS, high equity, transfer judgments, liens, multifamily, obituaries, out-of-state owners. So the out-of-state owners list needs to be merged with the high equity list.
It's already in there, yeah.
Oh, it already is part of it? So then we just need to remove. So I can verify that, y'all, just by coming in here, and I can just do high equity. Oops. I can filter by list and then filter by his high equity list. Or first, let me filter by his out-of-state owners list, right? And I can apply that, look at all data, and see that it's 2,831. And if I filter by the out-of-state list and the high equity list now, as long as it's the same number, all records are on there. So there's actually 300 missing from there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna filter by that whole list, and then we're gonna say do not include anything that also has the high equity list, which is gonna leave us that difference of 277. So we're gonna select those, manage, add to lists, high equity, and that's gonna add those records to the high equity list. And then we're just gonna filter by all out-of-state owners and then remove that from the list. And the reason why, oops, that's the wrong option. The reason why we're doing that again is because this isn't a 5-stack, this isn't a 5-stack, this isn't a 4-stack. These are actually one less than that. So when we're looking at it, we say, oh, it's on 5 different lists. Again, it's not really 5 lists because out-of-state owners and high equity are the same thing because we pulled it with high equity, and we can just filter by out-of-state owners in REISift. So remove from list and then out-of-state. Okay, so a little bit of cleanup there. Back to our list page, and we're gonna take a look at the second page here. Power of attorneys, pre-foreclosures, probate, seniors, tax delinquency, and vacant. All looks good. Activity log looks good. So those are processing. We can see if he has any integrations going on. Doesn't have any bulk integrations going on. The sales dialer air call, that's the one that you can click around and do some stuff. I'll show you guys that in my account. But overall, what I would do for you, man, is I would definitely create a flow. We're not using our filter presets in the best process. I'll show you my account on what you should do there, but the resource you need to make sure that you implement, even if you're only direct mailing, because you're still bringing in data consistently, is this data flow diagram. Watch these 2 videos and implement those filter presets, because what that's gonna do is you're gonna be able to figure out who you've mailed or who you haven't mailed yet through those, like creating a flow on those vacant properties. But if you're targeting, is vacant what you're targeting mainly right now?
No, so what I'm targeting is like anyone on a 3-stack or more. So if you go to this,
Okay, so let's do stacked. And if you're doing 3 stacks or more right now, I don't care if it's, I'm gonna say I don't care if it's vacant, and then we'll leave it like that. So no statuses, 3-stack or more. And apply, as of right now, we got 5,000 of those or so.
So there's a whole other market in there, so really it's only like 4 and some change.
Okay.
So if you if you do not include tag, and then the tag would be Westchester, that's not what I'm marketing to as. Okay,
so basically, we want to market to only 3 stacks or higher, meaning it's on 3 or more lists. He doesn't want to market to Westchester, and we don't ever want to repeat marketing to people that have already shown interest, and so the status has changed, right? So that gives us 3,580. So what I want to be able to do is, I'm sure you have a process in your business that's like, okay, cool, well, I send direct mail to these people on this flow, or I bring in new data every X day. We need to see that as a flow inside of our account. So I'll save this new. Like what is the tags you use for direct mail? Do you put a full, like a...
Oh, yeah, mailed 10, 11, or whatever, with the custom letter, with the...
Do you put like a high level tag, like sent DM, for example? Anything like that? So start doing that, because the reason I say to do that is because if you did, we could on this one say do not include anything that I've sent direct mail, period, no matter how many attempts. That way I can apply this and see who I've never marketed to, right? And then what we would end up doing is making sure we have a tag for direct mail attempt 1, attempt 2, attempt 3, attempt 4, right? And so we'd be able to create a flow to see, okay, who out of these 3 stacks have I mailed 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time, and they haven't responded yet, and maybe they're on the tax delinquent list, and so that's a little high priority. So now after 4 months of direct mailing, I'm also gonna spend the money now and invest in that skip tracing to do that one-off marketing, right? So it's really important to end up creating those flows in your business, because that's how you end up having repeatable stuff. Everyone yesterday, one of the things you were talking about is, do I deserve this, and is this something that I can continue to produce? The answer to that is absolutely yes. But if you don't have this in place, the likelihood of it being something that you're confident about is a lot less, because you're continuing to guess, okay? So I think that's enough on that perspective. There is a lot of things that you can do in REISift in general with the integration, send out the call tools, import everything. The last thing I'll show you guys, I'm not really sure what time it is right now, about 12:30. Is like you can see on my page, I go to my records page, and as of right now, we have 1, 2, 3 of these that aren't updated with a status right now. And I wanna know what that is, so I'm gonna take a peek at it. HOA liens, is this assigned to anybody right now? So it's not assigned to anybody. Oh, and this is why, because I have 1 phone number in here and it's a dead number. So we don't direct mail first, we direct mail last right now in my business, except for 2 specific foreign markets. So this is dead. So this would be a great example of what we consider an exhausted record. So this one should be getting direct mail right now. And it doesn't have any direct mail attempts. So that's something that, is failing in my business, and I can visually see that because it's on my first record, on my first page. I click on it and there's no more phone numbers, and I haven't sent a direct mail piece yet. So I can fix that, by simply, in this scenario, for any of you CCFers, you guys get, nice Ryan specials, so you wouldn't really necessarily do it through here, but we have, ballpoint marketing directly in here. So I can select this and go through and send them a postcard right now if I wanted to. And then what would end up happening is never mind. We'll talk about that later. I can get that direct mail piece out there and I can mark that, right? But I can look at my activity log and look back and see what happened. And really this one, it looks like I was testing a bunch of stuff in my account before we released a feature. But I'm gonna show you guys an example of a lead that had came in, 106 Star Drive. It's one of my favorite examples to do because it shows like the ecosystem of the importance of being able to track from prospects to lead and then lead to revenue. This one has not went from lead to revenue yet. However, you can see that this is on code enforcement and multifamily. Another good example for that whole question that you had about marketing to multifamily. We'll kind of transition with this to that. When I uploaded this code enforcement list, I'm specifically pulling code enforcements on a monthly basis. I think most of you are educated on code enforcement, right, Ryan? Yeah, it's your good way to get the money that you pay the government every single month to actually make you money, because it's a government person going out and doing code enforcements, right? So make sure you guys are doing that because there's a lot of opportunity in code enforcements. We have a user out of Dallas actually who just focused on code enforcement and tax delinquency. He spends like $500 a month and he makes 6 figures like every month. It's ridiculous. It really pisses me off actually. But he focused on really big problems. He clears out the code enforcement debt basically. He has a really good relationship with the code enforcement company now. And he clears out the code enforcement debt. It might have $60,000 in debt on it, and that's where his margins are. It's in the debt. Right?
What company is that guy?
Not Texas Software, that's Jamie. I can't remember, it's Texas something. His name is McLean. Yeah. Oh yeah, so you know McLean. Yeah. So his name is McLean, and he's killing it in that niche, right? He just got an office now in his Spanish team, so his budget's going up, but that's like what it is. And when his success stories started coming out and stuff and people were posting that, people started like following the trend or whatever, and they're like just starting to like downgrade their accounts. I'm like, guys, listen, All right, like it's not about being cheap, okay? It's about being efficient with the money you're spending. There's a difference, okay? Upgrade your accounts back again. So in this scenario, you can see that I have a direct mail attempt, right? But if this is a lead, if we're gonna have our level 10 meetings, and I'm gonna have a call with my lead manager and figure out, okay, what's going on with these leads that we have going on, coming up, right? If we look at our tasks that are coming up on a weekly basis. What we'll do is we'll kind of take a review and we'll look at the activity log. And from the time that this ever came in my account, I can see that the owner was updated on August 25th. So that tells me the multifamily list was already in here. We just didn't have the activity log at the time to track when it came in. But the code enforcement list was added to this property. So what ended up happening, I'll show you in a second on my records page under those filters, right? I have a not skip trace, never marketed to filter, right? So if I've never marketed to before and I upload new data, right? And it stacks with something or whatever happens, it becomes now a priority of the stuff that needs skip traced to market to, all right? So that's what ended up happening here. You can see that it's junk-like conditions, repeat offender, citations issued. So I know that there's debts starting to be acquired. I automatically sent direct mail to this one in this scenario through Ballpoint. Stacked October 2021. I added my direct mail tag. And I assigned it to April, my VA, and she did what we call the Sensei flow against this record because it's hot priority. And so my mess up here, when I talked about reverse engineering earlier, I uploaded this on August 25th. I did not assign it to her until September 27th, right? So if you want to hit your numbers and say it's the last quarter of the year, some people might say, oh, well, like a month's no big deal. Like, well, it is if it's December and you don't market to them until January and you were trying to hit a specific number in 2021, right? So I assigned it to her there, and between the time that I assigned it on the 29th, she first called it on the 29th. She followed up called on the 30th, and so on. I can see this through the air call integration. She's tagging it, she's creating a task to follow up, and it ended up converting to a lead on October 4th. So we have a 1 week lead runway is what I call it. So the question is, how true is that for all of your data? And you're gonna find an average of when you add data to your account and you send it off to whether it's direct mail or whether it's cold calling or whatever it is, when did I get it and when did it convert to a lead? That's prospect to lead runway. There's like, how long is that taking? So once you catch up and you've marketed and hit all 4,000 of your probates and now you're getting 100 a week or 100 a month that you're specifically focusing on, how long is it taking for those 100 to convert into lead and how many of them are actually converting into a lead? And this is how you build predictability for not just this quarter, but next quarter and your annual predictability on your revenue, depending on what your deal size is. It's also how you end up increasing your deal size, okay, by understanding these numbers. All right, so now we talk about from lead to revenue, and you can see that in this situation, it was converted to a lead, and then April created a task for Diana, and now Diana followed up on October 5th. And then I changed the status to warm, she added some notes and so on, and we've continued to follow up. And something weird happened on October 7th. She finally got back a hold of the individual. What ended up happening is I lost my VA ended up getting a hold of them after it took 2 days to get back a hold of them again, which is another really important metric to understand. If something becomes a lead, how long is it taking for you to end up engaging the lead again, especially for your inbound? If it takes another 2 days, it's something good to know. How long is it taking after a lead is made for us to re-engage it again? Because that's really where the money comes from. And when she finally got a hold of them again, it ended up being where they were not interested. It's like, well, how did that happen? How did they become not interested after like 2 days earlier they were interested and even gave us a number they wanted, right? 350,000. So what I can do then is like, okay, cool. On our level 10 meetings, I'll look at the message board and I'll look to see what she said. She spoke to Rodney. He said he's not interested in selling the property and wants us off the list. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Literally, like, responded to us, told us how much he wanted, and was eager in our first conversation. So why is he now not wanting that? So, okay, lead manager, and this is where you can improve your team and make them more efficient. Why is that a thing? Well, turned out it wasn't Rodney. They were driving in a vehicle. Rodney answered. The wife grabbed the phone, and their wife said, "We're not interested in selling," and hung up the phone. So do you think that's not interested in selling, or do you think that's a marital issue that needs to be, cultivated, like I think I heard yesterday with, one of, what's his name, John?
Are you going to go check out his divorce then too?
Yeah, right? So there's something going on, right? And so it can become a deal at some point, and what she had done is she switched it to not interested, when in all reality it should stay a lead, and it needs a follow-up task, right? And so this is how we can end up improving our business long term. So it's another thing that we solve. You can also upload property files if you end up getting a contract, add photos or whatever. Most people are focusing on that really big marketing strategy, the flow. And I'll just show you guys really quick in here, and then we'll kind of answer some questions. This is that flow that I was talking about. Code enforcement, CE is what it stands for. And I'll just stand up here to kind of point, make it easier. So on here, we can see that I have a CE for code enforcement need skipped. Oh, I forgot that's touch. So it needs skip. Oh, actually, hey, this will work out. So need skip right now, it shows nothing. So that means that I intook code enforcement data and everything's been skip traced. It means at least my team's doing that right? If we look back at it again though, after something is skip traced, who here knows the average numbers that come back? Typically 70 or 80%. Some providers will market like a 97% rate of numbers back. But either way, it's typically 80% is a really good average. So 20% of that code enforcement data is going to come back with no phone numbers. And a lot of people just leave that to the side. They don't do anything with it. We say, well, that's stupid because we're marketers. We should probably do something with that. So anything that's code enforcement that's been skipped in REISift, so it has an REISift skip tag, but it doesn't contain a skip genie tag. If we apply that, right now I have none there. So that's good. That means anything I've skip traced once that didn't have phone numbers back, I skip traced it again and it must be somewhere else. So that's where we have our code enforcement skip trace in 2 locations tag, which is right here. Just code enforcement 2 locations. Apply that, and I have no records there, which is great. That means that we've sent it direct mail already, right? So if it didn't have phone numbers in 2 different locations, it's definitely getting direct mail. And we're going to start researching the siblings. But the stuff that did come back with results from skip tracing, code enforcement ready to market, meaning it doesn't have any direct mail attempts or cold call attempts, doesn't have a status, it's not assigned to my team. I could click apply, and as of right now, everything is out marketing to somebody. Oh, actually, everything I just said is wrong, and I lied to you. But I was just kind of going with it because, it was showing up as such. But there should have definitely been records under that one. So as of right now, there's probably 279 right now that are ready to market right now. So yesterday, in the middle of what we had going on, April messaged me, said, hey, I don't have any more records to work. So if I were to look at her right now, April needs work. It's records that are assigned to her that has no status. She is in fact correct. So we want to fix that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to that ready to market, and we're going to apply that. I'm just going to select the top 10 of these. And you can work on multiple niches at one time to do this. Go to manage, assign to user, and assign it to April. And now I can message her on WhatsApp and said I did my job. And she can click on her needs work. And what she's going to do, she now has records under here, at least 10 for now. I just opened one. And she's going to come in here and she's going to start working these records because they're our top priority. And she's going to click it, which is going to open up air call. And then she's going to dial that. And depending on the situation, she's going to take this and she's going to edit the phone number. And she's going to either say it's a correct number, it's a wrong number, or whatever based on that. If she doesn't get a hold of them, what's going to happen? She's going to add a task. She's going to come in here and she's going to say, okay, I'm going to follow up attempt 1, or it's actually this one right here, Sensei Flow follow up attempt 1. She's going to add the task. And now she's going to have a task. So when she wakes up in the morning, she's going to click here. She's going to complete her tasks that she has for the day, ignore my overdue offers. And she's going to go through those. She's going to click on the record. She's going to go to it. She's going to then look at the numbers that don't have tags yet, call them. And then after 3 attempts of doing that, she's going to then send direct mail. Meanwhile, in my company, what we're doing is we're specifically still sending bulk direct mail through REISift, through the ballpoint integration, to a specific set of people, which we have as a somewhere here. Stacked monthly mail hot. So what we do here is anything that's stacked that is in these zip codes that doesn't have a status yet and is not return mail, which is something I forgot to add on this one here. Really important because we just updated all of our return mail. We don't want it to include oh, we already have a tag column. Oh, I already did. Never mind. I just wasn't scroll down. So I did do my job. Okay. So we don't want it to include return mail. Click apply. And so after last month, when I come back in, I'll still send to those 1,000, right, direct mail. And meanwhile, if I were to switch this from return mail to include return mail, let's see if the mail I did send to came back with any return mail yet. If it did, there you go. If it did, I don't have to mail these no more, which is 39. But what should I do to these people? Cold call them, right? So I'm going to take these, I'm going to select them all, right? Because some of them have phone numbers. See, this is 518 days ago. No status yet, but it has phone numbers. And what am I going to do? I'm going to take it and I'm going to assign to user and just give it to April so that we can make sure that that's getting work. Because otherwise, that's how we have leaky faucets and that's how somebody else ends up getting one of these 39 deals. And you're like, well, how the hell did that happen? But what I need to make sure I do really quick, just because some of these don't have phone numbers, is I'm just going to send to skip tracing real quick. Oop, not dialers. I'm just going to send those for skip tracing. That way they actually have phone numbers when she gets them. And then what I could do is I could also update this filter right here to make sure that it's not anything that's assigned to a user already. So I don't direct mail it again if it's assigned to somebody. And then save the changes on that. That way those 39 are going to disappear entirely from that filter. Cool. Oh shit, I didn't want that though. So anyway, there's a lot that you can do, but it all boils down to actually having operations. Who here thinks that your company is sellable to somebody right now as it stands?
There's a lot of idiots out there that'll buy stuff, so.
That's true. I wouldn't be one of them. However, wholesaling operations, flipping companies are very difficult to sell. The reason being is because there's really no value proposition in them. Anybody can go on and make offers on the MLS, right? The only thing that sells a company, the things that truly make a company worth money is IP, intellectual property, okay, and operations, right? If you set up an operation, you set up a team, that's what sells, okay? And so what's really beautiful about REISift in general, at its core, even if you only did cold calling and only did one little thing of updating phone numbers with correct numbers to the correct homeowner, verified, that's very valuable. Roofing companies, solar companies, insurance companies, all the companies that are currently trying to, debt collection companies, all the companies that are trying to get a hold of these people because it's the correct number, you now have a database full that if anything you decide, hey, I don't want to do this real estate thing no more, you could go to any roofer probably or any solar company in your market and be like, yo, I have like 10,000 verified correct numbers to homeowners that we marketed to. They didn't want to sell their house, but the roofs are fucked up because I went driving for dollars and I made sure that while I was D4Ding, I updated messed up roof. I updated needs windows. I updated needs a grass cut. Lawn companies. This prospecting data is very valuable to a lot of industries. Industries pay a ton of money. You guys, if I said in your market, and of course I would never do this, but I have like an account that has like a ton of records with correct numbers in Dallas, and you can pay me $2 per record and you can have verified correct numbers of homeowners. Like people do that and sell it and make a buco amount of money. Most of it's not legit. However, it's possible. There's a company that just sold. The only reason that they sold their company, they had 20 years. I forget what the exact thing is they had on single-family residences. There was one variable they had. I don't remember what it is. Kind of like how CoStar is, where they literally have the monopoly on things that were sold for over 20 years ago with multifamily real estate. This company had a monopoly on single-family on something like that. They sold for $40 million just because of that one thing alone. They were the only company. Sears. The only reason Sears sold and actually was profitable was because of the 10 years or 30 years or whatever it was of people who were interested in buying tools, right? So you have the same capability. The problem is you devalue your company, you devalue yourselves, like we're doing yesterday, and thinking that you're not a business owner, you're not capable of being valuable. And you can make the option to change that mindset, or start building something that actually, whether you believe it or not, someone else looks at you like you're valuable besides your personality, right? Last thing, because I think I'm probably at time here, is the multifamily thing, right? I have multifamily data in my account. I am very interested in multifamily, so if you guys get multifamily deals, give them to me, and then I'll send them to Jeremy, because there's a deal I just put money in on with Jeremy that I already had the lead. They ended up ghosting me, and turned out Jeremy got him under contract, so I'm still a little sour about it. So I went from being able to be a GP and not have to put any money into it to having to put money into it, and now I have to have my ROI. But it's a great deal. I don't know if Jeremy's still here, but I don't think he is. So what I could do right now is I can do something very simple. I could go to ListSource, or I know, Ryan, you can get multifamily data, like a shit ton of it, pretty cheap, right? Yeah. So all you guys can come together. You all go to Ryan and be like, yo, we all want multifamily data, and he can get you that shit super cheap. And you can buy multifamily data. I have about 13,000 records in my primary locations I want, which is Citrus County, Escambia, or really all the Panhandle, and like Ocala area. And I can come in here and I say, okay, I want to start marketing today. Like I'm gonna say April from now on, or I found someone to start marketing for me. You're gonna focus on multifamily deals. So let's just really quickly make something to be able to start working that data, because what you do not want to do is you do not want to just throw multifamily data in like a bulk dialer. Like don't do that. I know like there's a lot of people that do that, and they definitely kick off deals, but the multifamily deals that convert, the really good deals, are owned by a mom and pop type operation, and they don't answer people that are on bulk dialers, and if they do, they're usually tell them to F off, and it's just not good. So the more valuable something is, someone mentioned this yesterday with the buyers, right? When you talk to a buyer in their language, the better, right? So this is valuable, right? Multifamily is where you make a crap ton of money. It's where you can store a crap ton of money. So treat it with the value that it deserves and the respect that it should have from the data and the marketing perspective.
We also, guys, on those are the only calls we want to send to call order. Those go directly to the person whose name was on the letter.
Yeah.
Because the answering service, hey, what's the address of your house? The guy's already shitty because it's in front.
Yeah.
So, they're going to ask, is it a rental? Are you retarded? Of course it's a rental.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So with those go straight to no upgrade. So we kind of do it the same way. There's a smaller sample of them. If I blow a single family deal, okay, maybe I'm out $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. I blow a multi-family deal because I tried to take a shortcut. I can get that.
Yeah. Owner-occupied multifamily is also really good to focus on because it is a thing, like especially with mobile home parks. A lot of times they live on the premise, right? So what I'm doing is I'm filtering by my multifamily list. When I buy that bulk data, never do like parameters on it. I don't care, like I'm in this game for the long run. I'm buying the address, like that's what I'm buying, right? So buy the multifamily data. When you ask Ryan, say, hey, dude, I just want every single multifamily property in my market. Like don't restrict it.
Yeah, there's also, you can't get equity on multifamily.
Yeah.
Some of you guys say, hey, I want to have 35 to 100% equity. Well, as Jeremy just walked you through, it's all based off the financials.
Yep.
The owner doesn't even know if they have equity or not.
Yeah, and right now appreciation is making any of those equity lists not accurate anyway. So absentee, yes. Numbers, no. Skip trace, no. No statuses, apply. As of right now on my account, that's 5,641 records. So following the data flow diagram, this right here, what I need to do is save new and call this multifamily needs skipped, right? Okay, boom, done. I'm not gonna worry about the skipped in one location or skipped in two locations thing. I'm just gonna divert over to anything that does have a phone number and that it's an absentee owner, it doesn't have any statuses, and it's not assigned to anybody. So do not include anything that's assigned to anybody. Save this as a new, and this is multifamily ready to market. ready. Well, it's going to be that for now. Save, and I'm going to apply that. And as of right now, there is 4,066. And let's just say, okay, this is our ready to market. So this is like our data pool, right? 4,000 records. This is our pool of records we can pull from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, cool. I'm going to take these and I'm going to narrow it down just a tad because I don't really want 4,000. And I'm going to add a count and say I only want them on 2 or more lists. And that brings me down to 663, still a little bit of a much. So maybe we narrow down again to where it's like vacant property, which with multifamily is sometimes not accurate because it's like a shed or whatever, but that gives us 36. So let's just take these 36, manage, and assign to user. And I'm just gonna assign these to me for now because I don't want April calling them. And save, and your multifamily specialist is then gonna come in here, and if I were to make myself an option here for assigned to user, Tyler, status is not, anything. And then I would save this as a new, and this would be Tyler needs work. And apply. There's 75 of them under me. Boom, I click on it. And then I click on the phone number once it lights up here. Okay, I click on it. First of all, because it's an 813 number, that's Tampa. Multifamily probate, oh, that's good. Activity log, assigned to me. Let's look real quick and see if he owns anything else. He doesn't own anything else. Kind of like supposed to be a lot that was built, gonna turn into multifamily maybe. Don't really know what's going on there. But what I would do either way is I'd click it and I would call his number. It would start ringing like it is right now. What's gonna happen in air call, and it's the same status of like your multifamily person ends up having if we end up getting connection. It'll go out, it'll pull up their record in here in air call and show the address there. And same thing, if they call me back, it's gonna pop up with this person's information so I know that that's the multifamily that's calling me. And these are landlines, by the way, so it might be, I don't know how. It's a dead number. So again, what would I do here? I would edit this and say dead. We'll just do this record really fast. Save that, call the next number, and we might find out that this is exhausted and the person is not going to be good. This one's ringing.
Augusta Thomas. Augusta Thomas.
Hi, Miss Augusta. I was giving you a call because I was calling about your property over here off of Callaway. It looks like it's a vacant lot. And I was just curious if you might be interested in letting go of that lot. I'm trying to build a house over there. And so if you're interested in selling it, give me a call back at your earliest convenience. And I look forward to speaking with you. Again, my name's Tyler Austin, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye. So I don't know what my number is, so I didn't give a number. But maybe she'll look back. But what I would do is she used a correct number. Augusta Thomas, that was her first name, her last name's Thomas, right? And I can see that here. At least I know that it's in the family, so I'm gonna put this as correct number, right? And then save it, and I'm gonna switch the status to follow-up really simply. Where's my follow-up? Follow-up, it's in front of me somewhere. Oh, that's buyer. Follow-up, okay, and then I'm gonna create a task to follow up with this person. I have a preset here for follow-up, standard follow-up sequence, and I'm just gonna put it under, actually, I'll put it under Diana or April so that she can follow up with it right here, okay? So now that task will be on there, and what you'll see under the activity log is that I called it, and if I click right here and I log into air call, it'll actually have, I don't know if I was calling from my REISift one or my other one, to be honest with you. But it'll have, if I logged in, it'll have the voicemail that I just left on there, and then it'll show that I followed up, right? So for the multifamily question, literally upload the data, and all I would do now is click on next record and go through it again. Next record, go through it again. And after 3 attempts of not reaching somebody, that would be a really badass multifamily if we got a Green Acres one. After going through it 3 or 4 times, now it's when we start saying, okay, well, they're not going to answer the phone. Let's send that direct mail piece. Let's go door knocking. This would be a freaking badass. Yeah, tax delinquent, water list, so they don't have water on that, and it's unknown. This one's not on the multifamily list though. So anyway, that's pretty much it on time. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. I'll be around the rest of the day. Okay, so in his scenario, if we go into his account, we're gonna take a look. And automatically, I'm gonna like dog on you a little bit, I apologize. Automatically, like this is like things that I hate to see. Like it tears me up inside when I go to like the records page and I see 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That's like 5 lists that it's on and the statuses are blank. And this is a vacant owner occupied and this one's vacant. So at minimum, these two I would love to see have like not interested, a lead, or like, I don't know, something. But when it's blank, it means that we didn't do anything to reach out to this. And this is 10 records out of 405,000. This is the top 10 records in my account, right? We need to be focused on. This is why we can bring companies that are doing like 3, 4, 5, some of the companies doing 7 million a year in real estate, and they upload all their data in here. We get everything centralized, and I'm like, I promise them, I say, listen, if you come in and you start using REISift, I can reduce your budget easily by $10,000 a month from what you're spending right now. And I can increase your sales by minimum $100,000 in the first 30 days. And I upload all their data and like, this is what it looks like. People started like following the trend or whatever, and they're like just starting to like downgrade their accounts. I'm like, guys, listen, all right? Like it's not about being cheap, okay? It's about being efficient with the money you're spending. There's a difference, okay? Upgrade your accounts back again. So in this scenario, you can see that I have a direct mail attempt, right? But if this is a lead, if we're gonna have our level 10 meetings, and I'm gonna have a call with my lead manager and figure out, okay, what's going on with these leads that we have going on, coming up, right? If we look at our tasks that are coming up on a weekly basis. What we'll do is we'll kind of take a review and we'll look at the activity log. And from the time that this ever came in my account, I can see that the owner was updated on August 25th. So that tells me the multifamily list was already in here. We just didn't have the activity log at the time to track when it came in. But the code enforcement list was added to this property. So what ended up happening, and I'll show you in a second on my records page under those filters, right? I have a not skip trace, never marketed to filter, right? So if I've never marketed to before and I upload new data, right? And it stacks with something or whatever happens, it becomes now a priority of the stuff that needs skip traced to market to, all right? So that's what ended up happening here. You can see that it's junk-like conditions, repeat offender, citations issued. So I know that there's debts starting to be acquired. I automatically sent direct mail to this one in this scenario through Ballpoint. Stacked October 2021. I added my direct mail tag. I assigned it to April, my VA, and she did what we call the sensei flow against this record because it's hot priority. And so my mess up here, when I talked about reverse engineering earlier, I uploaded this on August 25th. I did not assign it to her until September 27th, right? So if you want to hit your numbers and say it's the last quarter of the year, some people might say, oh, well, like a month's no big deal. Like, well, it is if it's December and you don't market to them until January and you were trying to hit a specific number in 2021, right? So I assigned it to her there, and between the time that I assigned it on the 29th, she first called it on the 29th. She followed up called on the 30th, and so on. I can see this through the air call integration. She's tagging it, she's creating a task to follow up, and it ended up converting to a lead on October 4th. So we have a 1-week lead runway, is what I call it. So the question is, how true is that for all of your data? And you're gonna find an average of when you add data to your account and you send it off to whether it's direct mail or whether it's cold calling or whatever it is, when did I get it and when did it convert to a lead? That's, prospect to lead runway. There's like, how long is that taking? So once you catch up and you've marketed and, hit all 4,000 of your probates and now you're getting 100 a week or 100 a month that you're specifically focusing on, how long is it taking for those 100 to convert into lead and how many of them are actually converting into a lead. And this is how you build predictability for not just this quarter, but next quarter and your annual predictability on your revenue, depending on what your deal size is. It's also how you end up increasing your deal size. One of the big things is that, and I get this all the time, it's like, well, Tyler, click the call stuff. You know, it never, like, it's not, I'm just not getting leads from it. I'm not getting like leads, so I'm switching to bulk dialing. Like, you just sound like the biggest idiot like ever. Like, you're saying that you're not gonna click to call, which is calling a phone number, so you're gonna switch to a bulk dialer, which is also calling the phone number. It's the same thing. There's literally no difference. You're calling a phone number. That's what you're doing. But the difference is that when you do a click to call and you're focused on this top data, which you don't have to do right away, you could start doing bulk dialing, but you always want to come back and capitalize on the people. Your bulk dialer is never going to find everybody. So some of that data needs to push over. Your direct mails after 3 months is you're going to have people that aren't responding, that are tax delinquent, like in this scenario, that it's either it goes to tax auction or you try to call it. It's one or the other. So it's, are you going to bid at tax auction? Are you not going to bid at tax auction? Or are you going to do the job that's needed to get a hold of them before it goes to tax auction? There's like 3 options. And so, but when you're doing it from the click to call perspective, you know, we call it the sensei flow, but when you click on the number, you're going to dial it, right? And then if they don't answer, you're going to send a text message. And if they don't respond to text message, or if let's say you get a voicemail, you're going to leave a voicemail. And if you go through these phone numbers, let's say there's 5 here, 3 here, call through each one. One of them's going to be dead, one of them's going to be a wrong number, and the other one's not going to answer. Call again tomorrow, maybe it doesn't answer. Call again the next day, maybe it doesn't answer. But you've sent a text message all 3 of those days. You left a voicemail if you got a voicemail. And then now we're sending a postcard as well. So we're doing 4 or 5 marketing strategies at the same time. In our bulk dialing, we're just cold calling, and it's our top data that we're doing it to, right? So that's why it's so effective. That's why it's super important to do this to the top 1% of your data set. We call it tier 1 data. Bulk dial that tier 2 data, send direct mail to that tier 2 data. In some situations, you're also going to send, you know, direct mail to the tier 1 stuff. Like me, any deceased data that comes to my business, period, gets direct mail right away. But then we also do the sensei flow against it, and then anything that's like above that, you know, we're going to be throwing in a bulk dialer. So anyway, there's a lot that you can do, but it all boils down to actually having operations. Who here thinks that your company is sellable to somebody right now as it stands?
There's a lot of idiots out there that'll buy stuff, so.
That's true. I wouldn't be one of them. However, wholesaling operations, flipping companies are very difficult to sell. The reason being is because there's really no value proposition in them. Anybody can go on and make offers on the MLS, right? The only thing that sells a company, the things that truly make a company worth money is IP, intellectual property, okay, and operations, right? If you set up an operation, you set up a team, that's what sells, okay? And so what's really beautiful about REISift in general, at its core, even if you only did cold calling and only did one little thing of updating phone numbers with correct numbers to the correct homeowner, verified, that's very valuable. Roofing companies, solar companies, insurance companies, all the companies that are currently trying to, debt collection companies, all the companies that are trying to get a hold of these people because it's the correct number, you now have a database full that if anything you decide, hey, I don't want to do this real estate thing no more, you could go to any roofer probably or any solar company in your market and be like, yo, I have like 10,000 verified correct numbers to homeowners that we marketed to. They didn't want to sell their house, but the roofs are fucked up because I went driving for dollars and I made sure that while I was D4Ding, I updated messed up roof. I updated needs windows. I updated needs a grass cut. Lawn companies. This prospecting data is very valuable to a lot of industries. Industries pay a ton of money. You guys, if I said in your market, and of course I would never do this, but I have like an account that has like a ton of records with correct numbers in Dallas, and you can pay me $2 per record and you can have verified correct numbers of homeowners. Like people do that and sell it and make a buco amount of money. Most of it's not legit. However, it's possible. There's a company that just sold. The only reason that they sold their company, they had 20 years. I forget what the exact thing is they had on single-family residences. There was one variable they had. I don't remember what it is. Kind of like how CoStar is, where they literally have the monopoly on things that were sold for over 20 years ago with multifamily real estate. This company had a monopoly on single-family on something like that. They sold for $40 million just because of that one thing alone. They were the only company. Sears. The only reason Sears sold and actually was profitable was because of the 10 years or 30 years or whatever it was of people who were interested in buying tools, right? So you have the same capability. The problem is you devalue your company, you devalue yourselves, like were doing yesterday, and thinking that you're not a business owner, you're not capable of being valuable. And you can make the option to change that mindset or start building something that actually, whether you believe it or not, someone else looks at you like you're valuable besides your personality, right?